I've recently started doing Hades speedruns on both Twitch and YouTube as a part of my transition to variety content. And on the first couple of videos that I've posted, the comments were mostly either people getting confused about the game, not understanding why I liked it, or my personal favorite, people giving me various challenges to complete instead of just generally going fast. One of the more seemingly innocuous challenges that I've been given recently was to complete what's known as a high heat run, which if you don't play Hades, let me explain. The basic premise of the game is that you are the son of the eponymous Lord of the Underworld, Hades, and you're trying to escape the Underworld, also known as your house, because you're bored and you hate your dad because he's an overbearing and controlling prick who doesn't understand you, and he made mom leave because he's a giant asshole with anger issues. Or something like that. Anyway, at the start of your escape attempts, you can choose to punish yourself by making things harder using a little thing called the Packs of Punishment. These packs have a variety of effects from making you take more damage, deal less damage, or changing the attack patterns of bosses to make things more challenging, or just different. In normal high heat runs, the specific packs that you enable are chosen strategically in order to make things more challenging, but still doable with a given strategy. When you're speedrunning in the any percent category, there are even some packs that make things faster without really increasing the difficulty of the run at all. However, I'm an idiot. And when chat decided to challenge me to do a high heat run, I thought that, well, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And so I decided to attempt to escape the underworld and beat my dad in a fistfight with every single pact of punishment enabled at the same time. While attempting this challenge, I realized that Hades has one of the smoothest and most rewarding learning curves of any game that I've ever played. And I'm no stranger to harsh learning curves, or as the EVE Online community called it, a learning cliff. But Hades makes the learning process extremely rewarding and enjoyable to a level that I haven't experienced in a long time. And here's why. Beyond the packs of punishment, there's another tool called the Mirror of Night that you can use to change how the game plays and optimize your loadout. And with that, the strategy and tactics that you'll use in order to escape the underworld. You can upgrade the mirror using darkness and keys that you collect during each completed run, regardless of whether or not you succeeded in beating up your dad or failed somewhere along the way and ended up in a pool of blood. Unlike the Pact of Punishments, where things are made more difficult, the Mirror of Night just straight up makes you more powerful and gives you a higher chance of finding rare upgrades and other things like that. The real genius of this system, in my opinion, is that the hardest Pact of Punishment modifiers actually affect the strongest Mirror of Night upgrades, in that they disable them. And I didn't realize this until I started to attempt some of my high heat runs. None of the strategies that I'd used during my any percent speedrun attempts were helping me during this challenge, and oh boy was I in for some real punishment. Normally it only takes me about 10 to 15 minutes in order to complete an escape attempt, but this time it took me 4.5 hours to even get to Hades for the very first time. And I'm pretty sure during all of these escape attempts, I probably died in every situation imaginable. Tartarus, Asphodel, oh fuck, Elysium, Dix, lava. You saw nothing, Chad. Traps. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! We died. Boss fights. No! I saw him going for it. Random mobs. Fuck that guy. You name it. Fuck. However, the thing that I love about Hades is that each time I failed to complete a run, or died to something, it was always something that I could learn from and change to apply in my next attempt. There are no bullshit mechanics or enemies in Hades. If you died, it's because you messed up. And there's no more rewarding feeling than overcoming something that ended so many of your runs, and then just breezing past it with a practiced ease. It's a really nice feeling. And the first time that I made it to Hades during this harsh conditions challenge, I was using the Twin Fist, Aspect of Demeter. I'd really been struggling getting past Styx, which is the biome right before the final boss, but I had finally done it. Unfortunately, I'd made it to the Hades fight with a loadout and build-out optimized for beating Styx, not optimized for Hades. I was really good at clearing out waves of mobs and had a Zeus build that gave me a lot of chain lightning in order to help with that, but my single target damage was suffering and was basically nothing. And, well, Hades is basically just a really big single target. So Dad won that fight after I'd just tickled him for a bit. Then, finally, 2 hours later, I'd made it back to Hades for the second time. I'd equipped different Mirror of Night upgrades, different Olympian boons, and had an entirely different strategy that made it a little bit harder for me to get to Hades, including passing through Styx, but would make it in turn easier for me to fight Hades. My single target damage was higher, I had some more defensive boons that allowed me to deflect and resist some of Hades' attacks, and I had a decent health pool as well. But in the end, I didn't even get to Hades' second phase. Sure, I'd made some mistakes that had hurt my build quite badly in the last couple of minutes of the run, and if I hadn't, then I probably would have had a better chance of winning. But it was at that point that I realized the biggest problem I was having wasn't the build itself, it was how skilled I was in the actual Hades fight. When you're playing this game, there's no practice mode. You can't attempt to fight bosses without any stakes, and there's no way for you to test out builds with all of the Olympian boons you'll hope to find during a run. Even before you attempt an escape, there are more than 12 million possible loadouts, and so many Olympian boons that no matter how many times you attempt an escape, it's always going to be a different and unique run. The Mirror of Night had spoiled me in some sense, in that you can actually use the mirror to control the randomness to some extent, or just make it more favorable for you. You can give yourself rerolls if you don't find what you like, and you can give yourself a higher chance of finding high rarity upgrades, so that in the end game, you can pretty much craft any ridiculously overpowered build that you want, and trust me, there are some fun ones. But it also makes it so by the time you make it to Hades and fight your dad during the final fight of any escape attempt, you don't really have to care about his attack patterns, at least not when you're first starting out. You have so much damage and so much health during any normal endgame run or any percent speed run that you don't really even have to dodge. You just deal more damage to him than he deals to you and hope that he dies first. Taking damage is even part of the strategy sometimes, since taking damage charges up your call, which is basically your ultimate ability. So in all the hundreds of hours of playing Hades and completing runs, I realized that I'd never actually had to learn the Hades fight itself, and I didn't actually know Hades' attack patterns. So after that second loss where I was already fantasizing about calling it a night, shutting off stream and going to bed, I just pulled up the VOD and started reviewing the fight, looking for where my mistakes were and what I could improve on. And my major mistake turned out to be rather simple. I was dashing a couple frames early on one of Hades' spin attacks, and I was usually compensating it with an extra dash or higher speed. But at these levels of heat and difficulty, I had neither of those things, so I actually had to learn to do it properly and dodge instead of just getting out of the way. The very next run, I made it all the way back to Hades. It was only my third time making it to this boss fight on this heat level. The first time it took me 4.5 hours, the second time it took me almost another 2 hours. The end result wasn't a build that I'd copied from the world record holder or had seen another streamer use on Twitch or YouTube, and was completely unrecognizable from the strategy that I had started with at the beginning of the stream. But I knew how it worked, and more importantly, I knew how the Hades fight worked as well. At the start of the fight, I managed to avoid getting hit for almost a full minute in the most Neo from the Matrix moment I think I've ever had, thanks to the lessons that I'd learned from my last failure. And finally, after a 7-hour grind, I completed a Hades run with every single pact of punishment enabled in what was the most rewarding day of gaming I think I've had in a very long time. Get absolutely... Let's go! However, even in that victory, there was still a lot I could have improved on. I had only worked on learning the first phase of the Hades fight, of which there were 2 at the difficulty that I was playing at, but you can also enable a third if you're absolutely insane. Despite having reached the quote-unquote endgame about 100 hours ago, I'm only just now starting to realize how deep this game actually is and how much content there is both in the various challenges that the game gives you explicitly, but more importantly, in the challenges that you can give yourself. If you're interested, I'm going to be doing a narrated commentary about this run and posting it on YouTube tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed if you want to see that. And also, I've been streaming a lot more variety. I know that most people know me from my Overwatch days, but I'm going to be exploring a lot of new games and new releases as they come out, as well as DLCs or updates to old games as they come out. For example, Risk of Rain 2, I hear, is having a big update in 2021 that I'm looking forward to. Also, let me know what you thought about today's video. I've been thinking a lot about what makes good variety content as opposed to good educational esports content. So I'm in a little bit of new territory here, and it's going to be pretty experimental. So your feedback would be appreciated, but also let me know if you have any recommendations for other games you want me to try, or challenges that you want me to try and... Yeah. Should I even be asking that? Yeah, if you have a challenge to Hades, maybe just keep that one to yourself.